You know what I think? I think I'm not alone. In America, they say we're free, but what are you free to do? You're certainly not free to raise your children to be warriors. The system will beat you down. They will take your children from you before you're successful with that. And maybe you could in the isolation, maybe you could homeschool, maybe you could design something, maybe you could overcome the system, come up with some secret way to raise your child to be an outright warrior without the government knowing. And that's your options. And I think that if a country stepped forth and said, no, we will open up the path to raise warriors, I am going to absolutely raise kids from a very young age to be disciplined with everything from food to entertainment. You know, very young. Get them through, you know, exercise and academic discipline can be instilled in children at incredibly young ages, and it's not an inappropriate thing to do. In fact, the opposite is highly inappropriate. The challenge we have here is that to get that done involves intense parental attention, and not every parent has that kind of time, and very few parents are educated with what to do with that time, even if they could find the time. So what needs to happen for that type of a level of achievement within a community is for many, many, many families to come together and pool resources and make a strategy to produce and seek out the genius children. Because those are the ones that can move forward and accomplish the types of things that can improve entire societies, not just further individual status in life. I believe martial arts training should start, 3 years old, 4 years old, and that includes pain tolerance training. Children that learn pain tolerance training at a young age and learn to enjoy pain tolerance training at a young age grow up to be a different breed. That's, I think, well established at this point. The fallacy that kids get injured in martial arts just is not true. Martial arts is such a controlled environment, and children really take time to develop power that has the ability to do any damage, especially when they have pads on. So by the time they get powerful enough to do damage, they have control and discipline and understanding of the gym etiquette, especially with really young kids. And as they grow, that's not how they're going to get hurt. They're going to get hurt on bicycles. They're going to get hurt goofing off, doing things that are much more dangerous than martial arts. In martial arts, everything's under control. You're on a padded mat, you're standing, sitting. Like, there's so much control of the situation compared to, and those that do go on and become competitive fighters and want to be that level of commitment are a rare breed. And yes, they're gonna get hurt. those ones are gonna take damage from time to time, and it's just the nature of any sport. If you go race motocross, what sport can you do at that level without taking significant risk? When we think about economies in rural places, one of the hardest parts is that even the production of the best goods is encumbered by transportation costs. And this has a major impact on rural communities worldwide. The interesting part of modern society is that the internet is so readily available in many rural places. Not all, but many rural places have incredible connectivity. And then it seems like a logical path forward to utilize that as the resource of the community, but I don't see a lot of effort headed in that direction. Because to utilize the internet as a resource for income takes a heck of a lot of commitment. Like, I think about these schools and how you could build an innovative school designed to support a community instead of stripping the children from society, depriving the parents of their resources. And, worldwide academics is always a topic of interest and therefore financial investment. And so designing a school to raise online tutors is a lucrative venue for many people, especially when you consider places where the annual income is relatively low. They don't need to make that much on an hourly basis, in America. If you're charging $5 an hour for an algebra tutor, and that tutor actually really understands the subject, that tutor speaks a good, clean version of English that is not easily confused, even if there is an accent, right? Hopefully there is an accent. I think it's intriguing. And I think a 12-year-old child can be teaching algebra relatively well. And in Uganda right now, I think if that 12-year-old child's making $5 an hour, he can support his whole family. And that's such a powerful incentive to young children. How would you like to be the one that people depend on, the one that we lean on, the one that we trust? And what a way to push children into the future. And I think that can be developed in a relatively short amount of time by, first of all, seeking out the people within a community that are already capable of achievement with just some training, right? But also to develop students, with years of dedication to presentation and language and posture and etiquette, as well as, playful interaction, and really teach the type of business negotiation skills that kids need to maintain that type of one-on-one personal relationship. Because clearly, as you're talking to the children that you might be tutoring, parents are going to show up in the video and they're going to want to know who their kid's talking to. And if our kids are put together in a way that other kids aren't, and they see that professionalism in our children, the parents will continue to use our resources. And if our kids are mathematically superior and they're teaching at a level, or grammatically for that matter, and they're teaching at a level that is not common in the online tutoring community, we'll become famous for it. And then what? You got a whole town famous for tutoring online. That's probably a place that people want to visit because the conversation's going to be better, right? The resources that people have are often built on their comfort, and their comfort is built on language. And if you build a place such as this, I think that you could really do something incredible for a large number of people that would have otherwise never had anything close to that opportunity. Videography has to be a central part of this institution, because without world involvement, we're doomed to fail. We have to start with some initial motivation that's pushed towards some relatively short-term goal that's going to let us feel a sense of accomplishment. And the only way for that accomplishment to have any impact outside of our immediate community is going to be through sharing some version of content, video content, photographs, letters we write. And I think we can do a lot. I think the one of the critical aspects of utilizing this to the maximum is going to be showing up with relatively decent camera equipment and a system of processing videos. And the first students we get, this is going to be their number one objective, is to learn these cameras, learn the processing of the video, and really start creating content that is catchy, and then going after that donor money, finding the kids that are fun and things, and reaching out to the world. I think if you just went out to the world and put out for a GoFundMe that says, if we raise $2,000, we're gonna throw a party for all these kids and feed them a bunch of food and just have music, and I think people will be like, that's funny, send me the pictures. And that's a silly thing to say, but I think you can also do things like build dirt jumps. Dirt jumping in America is a big thing, and then get a couple bicycles, maybe a couple even nice ones, and let everyone share. Why not? Dirt jump bikes are more or less universally sized. And then, get a lot of video content, and then approach bike companies. Bike companies sponsor all kinds of people, and if we get a few kids who can really perform on dirt jumps, someone's going to sponsor those kids, and those are free bikes. But that's not just free bikes. When free bikes show up, people are going to be intrigued with the people they're seeing on our videos, and we're going to have places for them to stay, and we're going to make it very clear in all our videos that everyone's invited. Please come see us. And I think that that is more powerful than the whole process of the kids learning to ride the bikes. But the motivation piece doesn't need to be external. I think if you show up and say we're building dirt jumps and we have a couple bicycles and this is how you do it, I think just the nature of Uganda is that people are going to get behind that immediately. Like, that sounds like a good idea, especially if we're getting the kids involved and taking care of the kids in the process. And here's one people might not like, but it's just the facts and it's gonna happen. Inside Uganda, copyright laws are not really enforced. And the copyright laws are mostly bullshit when you look at the world as a whole. I think copyright laws need to be enforced in the developed world, but people are trying to catch up in a game that was never laid flat for them in the first place, right? So the least I'm worried about is stealing some copyright BS in a place, and then, but international distribution wouldn't be possible, but that doesn't matter. Within the confines, you can repeat what works in other places without having to worry about it. Like, there's so many board games out there that are really designed to help educate children. Those can be completely replicated by students, and the students will learn the process of production and manufacturing. There's be trades. A lot of these things involve metal work, you know, all the metalwork puzzles. I think we should be making those, and I think we should be making, you know, the wooden things for all the children, because wooden construction is like so important at that developmental age, you know, 18 months to 3 years, 4 years maybe. And then I honestly, I think we need a bunch of Legos, and you can't steal that. That's where you give Lego credit, right? They didn't make the kind of game that I can just sit down and copy. So we're gonna have to get some legit Legos. But then reaching out to the community. The point is that if we make a school where the kids are designed to be tutors and the kids are trained to be tutors, that means that they can exit and enter the community, far-reaching community, with their backpack of tricks. And so, you know, like this whole idea that we run in the West and in the colonized regions, where we're going to dictate to schools from the top down how this is supposed to be done, stealing, you know, you have how many teachers, how many creative people? Let's say 15% of your teachers in your country are highly creative, and then you take a country like Uganda, it's 42 million people, I want to say, so maybe there's, you know, 500,000 teachers, and you're saying, hey, we don't need the creativity of any of you. We don't need your help. We got it. You put 3 guys at the top and they make all the decisions. What a crock of shit is that, you know? If you want to reach the best of the children, then the people of the country have to be inspired to look for a better way forward. So when you send kids out into communities and say, hey, your whole school is messed up, ours does it completely different. We don't even separate kids by age. In fact, we learn from our older kids and we teach to our younger kids, and our teachers mostly are academics that study books all day just in case the kids get smart enough to ask the type of questions where they really need that kind of help. And people will say, oh, well, that sounds like a horrible school model, just because they're totally unfamiliar. They're indoctrinated into a process. You know, I tried saying these things in American public schools when I taught there, and it was not well received, you know. People thought I'd lost my mind, but that's only because they've been indoctrinated by something that was created in the late 1800s and largely implemented by Henry Ford and Hitler, right? Like, this is where your doctrine came from. So let's start over. But absolutely having the children with the presence to show up, and people say, well, maybe I don't agree with what they're saying, but I want my kids to be like that kid. When you set that kind of academic precedence and you train kids to take on responsibility, and you train kids that they are strong enough to stand up for themselves, and you train kids to put their shoulders back and look people in the eyes even in the face of adversity, when these things happen, the children make a presence. And when those children make a presence, people will be intrigued. I'm telling you, we can do this.